On a warm summer evening in July, the anticipation was palpable at the MetLife Stadium in New Jersey as Manchester United prepared to face Arsenal in a pre-season friendly. Among the many young talents eager to make an impression was 17-year-old French defender Leny Yoro, a summer signing whose presence on the pitch promised to add fresh energy to United's backline. It was a moment the teenager had dreamt of, a chance to show what he was capable of on one of football's biggest stages, wearing the iconic red jersey of Manchester United. But fate had other plans that evening. Early into the match, a seemingly innocuous challenge changed everything. Yoro fell awkwardly, clutching his foot in obvious discomfort. Medical staff rushed to his aid, and as the young defender was stretchered off the field, the look on his face told the story. This wasn't just a knock. It was serious. The diagnosis came quickly. Yoro had sustained a significant foot injury, one severe enough to require surgery. For any player, an injury like this would be a bitter pill to swallow, but for a teenager at the very start of his Manchester United career, it was nothing short of devastating. The surgery went well, but the road to recovery would be long. The club confirmed that Yoro would be out for several months, leaving him to watch from the sidelines as his teammates kicked off the new Premier League campaign. The news hit hard. Just weeks after signing with one of the biggest clubs in the world, Yoro's dream of making his mark on the pitch had been put on hold. But for those who knew the young defender, there was no doubt that he would return stronger. Yoro's resilience and determination were traits that had defined his rise through the ranks at Lille, where he had caught the eye of Manchester United scouts with his physicality, intelligence, and maturity beyond his years. Back in France, where Yoro had honed his craft in Lille's youth academy, he had always been known as a player who never shied away from a challenge. Whether it was a tough opponent or a difficult training session, Yoro approached every obstacle with a quiet confidence that belied his age. And now, as he faced the biggest challenge of his career so far, that same mentality would carry him through. The surgery was the first step, but the real work began in the weeks that followed. For 3 long months, Yoro threw himself into his rehabilitation, determined to return to the pitch as soon as possible. Day after day, he worked with Manchester United's medical team, focusing on strengthening his foot and regaining his fitness. The club provided him with the best possible care, but the process was slow and painful. At Carrington, United's state-of-the-art training facility, Yoro spent hours in the gym, undergoing grueling physiotherapy sessions under the watchful eye of the club's medical staff. He worked on rebuilding the strength in his foot, following a meticulously designed program that aimed to ensure he would return stronger than ever. While his teammates trained on the grass, Yoro remained indoors, his focus entirely on the task at hand, getting back to full fitness. It was a lonely road at times. For a young player still finding his place in a new country and a new club, the isolation of injury rehab could have been overwhelming, but Yoro remained positive. He had come too far to let this setback derail his ambitions. His family, who had supported him throughout his career, provided him with the encouragement he needed to keep pushing through the tough days. And at Manchester United, he had the full backing of his manager, Erik Ten Hag, and the club's senior players. Throughout his recovery, Yoro was a regular presence at the club's matches, sitting in the stands as he watched his teammates battle through a difficult start to the season. United had been hit hard by injuries, particularly in defense, with key players like Lisandro Martinez, Luke Shaw, and Harry Maguire all spending time on the sidelines. Yoro knew that once he was fit again, there would be opportunities for him to make his mark. But he also understood the importance of patience. As the weeks passed, Yoro's progress was steady. By mid-October, he had reached a significant milestone in his recovery. On a crisp Thursday morning, the club released a statement that would lift the spirits of United fans. Leny Yoro had returned to outdoor training at Carrington. The photographs that accompanied the announcement showed the young defender back on the grass, smiling as he went through his paces under the supervision of the club's medical team. It was a moment that felt like a turning point in his rehabilitation, a sign that the worst was behind him. Manchester United defender Leny Yoro has been pictured passing a significant milestone in his bid to recover from the foot operation he underwent during the summer, the club's statement read. Our number 15 has now progressed to the next phase in the process, as the photographs document his first day back out on the grass at our Carrington base. Leny was also put through his paces in the gym on Thursday, under the watchful eye of our medical staff. For Yoro, this was a huge step forward. After months of hard work and frustration, he was finally back on the pitch, even if it was just for light training. The sight of him running again, feeling the ball at his feet, and moving freely brought a sense of relief, not just for Yoro, but for everyone at the club who had supported him through his recovery. I've been waiting for this moment, Yoro admitted in an interview after his return to outdoor training. It's been tough being away from the pitch, but I've learned a lot during this time. I've worked hard to get back, and now it's about taking it step by step. Despite his progress, Yoro knew that a full return to action was still some way off. Erik Ten Hag and the club's medical staff were determined not to rush him back into competitive football too soon. With United's defensive injury woes showing no signs of letting up, the temptation might have been to fast-track Yoro's return, but the club was taking no chances. His long-term fitness was the priority, and a return before the November international break was deemed unlikely. For Yoro, the waiting game continued, but now, with each passing day, he felt closer to achieving his goal. The thought of pulling on the red shirt once again, of stepping out onto the pitch at Old Trafford and hearing the roar of the crowd, kept him motivated. He knew that when the time came, he would be ready. In the meantime, Yoro remained a key part of the squad's training sessions, gradually building up his fitness and working on his sharpness. His teammates, many of whom had experienced long injury layoffs themselves, offered their support and encouragement. Harry Maguire, who had recently returned from his own injury setback, was a particularly vocal presence in the dressing room, reminding Yoro that patience was key. "You've got all the time in the world, mate," Maguire told him after a training session. "Don't rush it. You'll get your chance, and when you do, you'll smash it." The camaraderie within the squad was something Yoro appreciated. Despite his youth, he had been welcomed into the United family from the moment he arrived. The senior players, many of whom had been in his shoes before, understood the challenges he was facing and did their best to make him feel included even when he wasn't able to train with the group. Off the pitch, Yoro's adaptation to life in Manchester had been relatively smooth. He had settled into a new home not far from the city centre, where he lived with his older brother, who had moved to England to support him. The two brothers were close, and their bond had been a source of strength for Yoro during his recovery. Away from football, they spent their time exploring the city, visiting local restaurants and catching up on their favorite TV shows. But even in his downtime, football was never far from Yoro's mind. He would often spend hours watching videos of his own performances, analyzing what he could improve on and studying the best defenders in the world. Sergio Ramos, Raphael Varane, and Virgil van Dijk were players he admired, not just for their ability, but for their leadership qualities. Yoro aspired to be more than just a great defender. He wanted to be a leader on the pitch, someone his teammates could rely on. As the weeks rolled on, the countdown to Yoro's return continued. Each day brought new progress, new milestones, and new reasons to be optimistic. The medical team was pleased with his recovery, and the feedback from the coaching staff was positive. Yoro's attitude, work ethic, and commitment to his rehabilitation had impressed everyone at the club, from Erik Ten Hag to the physios who had worked with him every day. By the end of October, there were whispers that Yoro might make his return sooner than expected. The November international break was still the target, but if his progress continued at the current rate, there was a chance he could be back in action before then. United's medical team remained cautious, but the prospect of having Yoro available for selection again was exciting for everyone involved. As for Yoro, he remained focused on the task at hand. His return to full training was imminent, but he wasn't getting ahead of himself. "I'm just taking it one day at a time," he said with a smile when asked about his recovery. "I want to be